Another principle of learning has to do with practice and feedback. In particular, goal-directed practice coupled with timely targeted feedback enhances the quality of students' learning. What do I mean by goal-directed practices? Well, we do this all the time. In engineering, we give them problems to solve. So then you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of the problems or exercises, assignments that we give? And it falls into two categories. One is formative assessment, and the other is summative assessment. And we think about problems or exercises done for practice so that they can get practice in doing the work and learning it. It's usually worth little or no credit. And then there's summative assessment, which is work that's done for a grade. So there's two different things, if they're done for practice versus done for a grade. We're going to be focusing on the things that are done for practice. So the most common things, for example, is homework. So if you have to remember, homework is usually not done for the grade, it's done for the practice. So in that case, allow them what they need to do the practice. Allow students the flexibility to use all their resources. Working collaboratively really helps students. They work in study groups and everything. So I would say for those of you that don't allow students to collaborate on homework, allow them to do that, because the purpose, again, is for practice, not the grade. Another thing is having in-class assignments. We have the students work problems individually and collaboratively in class and walk around and answer questions. These are ways to give them practice. As an active learning example, things that I've tried in the past, I've worked one example on the board and then give them the second problem to work. So rather than me working two problems, I allow them to work the second one, and I'll walk around and answer questions. Or I say, here, you can work with your neighbors to work on that problem. Another thing is to give them a worksheet that they can do collaboratively. And again, walking around, allowing them to work with each other and walk around and answer questions. Where to target the practice? All right, there's a theory on this, and it has to do with their cognitive skills and the challenge of what you're asking them to do. So if we look at this and say, if their cognitive skills are very high here and the challenge is very low, then they're in this region right here. Disengagement, boredom. It's just too easy for them. Now, what if the challenge is really hard, but their cognitive skills aren't very good on that particular topic? It's too hard. And if it's too hard, they're going to get angry and frustrated. So what if it's actually matched? So their cognitive skills match the challenge. Well, it turns out it works out better if you're just beyond that. You push them a little bit. You push them a little bit beyond their comfort zone so that they're going to learn the material more, but not so much that it's too hard. Now, what about targeted and timely feedback? You want to give them feedback at a time when adjustments can be made. I'm a controls person. I got to think in terms of control. So let's look at it from that perspective. The system is the students practicing the skills, and they get performance out of that, how they're working, how well they're doing on their homework, how well they're doing on things. And they get feedback, and they make their corrections in what they're doing and their approach, and then they try it again. So that is targeted and timely feedback where they can redo it. So just think about it. Feedback without the ability to redo is open loop. So they try the problem, and then they want to try similar problems that are like that. That's the feedback mechanism. Delay is when the feedback is given at a time when it's really, there's a long delay, and that results in poor performance. So they're trying something, and then they get the feedback much later, whether they got it right or wrong. That leads to poor performance. In a real control system, sometimes it can lead to instability. Here, for students, just poor performance. So common methods of feedback that we employ in our classes. Very typical practice. Give homework problems once a week, and then the solutions are given, and maybe the graded assignments are given a week later. So there's a long delay in that. and it's not timely, and there's no chance to redo. Because once you do the homework and once they get their grades back, they realize, oh, I did this wrong, but we're on to some other topic by now. So there's no chance to redo. So another thing that some people do is give problems with the solution. So I'm not going to grade it, but here are the problems with the solutions worked out. And it's a little bit better because they can work the problems and see if they're doing it right. But it's sort of low motivation to work through because they see the solutions all worked out. They just look at it. So another thing that works actually quite well is problems given with answers, but not the solutions. This is often when you assign a problem where the answer is in the back of the book, and they keep working those problems until they can get the answer. So they're getting the timely feedback and the chance to redo it. And then there's something that's being done more often now. It's problems online, which are automatically graded, and multiple chances to redo it. They do it, for example, in physics. I've done it in circuits classes as well. They immediately get feedback. They work the problem, it immediately grades it, and they see their grade. This is the actual grade they get for that problem. It's their homework grade. But they have a chance. They have like several chances to redo it and to correct their grade, and they see their grade going up. They say, oh, I got a 60% on this homework. I got 70%. And they're really motivated. They want competitive effort in this group of students or whatever, but they want to get above a 90. Now, in terms of projects and papers, what does it mean to get feedback? Project is due at the end of the term. There's no feedback except for the grade. So it's not practice. It is a summative assessment. Major project, it's not done for practice. If you want to give them practice, then you can have it due in parts, like subsystems or subsections. The feedback is given on each one in a timely manner. Or if you have the project or paper due in a preliminary form, the feedback is given, revised, and then the final version due. There's one thing I was going to try to do in a class, and that is where you have students grade each other, so that you do a project in preliminary form. They give them to another group of students to review, and then use that feedback to come back, so the instructor may not have to. So that's an alternative way of possibly doing it. But again, it's revising it, giving them another chance to turn it in. So think about this from an engineering project point of view. You're doing an engineering project, and usually if you do that project, you don't have one thing is it. That's it. You turn in the final project. It's usually done in stages. You have weekly or quarterly project reviews. You're getting feedback on how you're doing, modifications that should be done. So maybe that's the way that we should do our projects. Another form of feedback is what I call the 2-minute quizzes, where I give short concept quizzes, like 2 minutes during the class, with immediate feedback on answers. It can be done at the beginning of the class. And those 2-minute quizzes they're very simple. You just say, do you know what's going on? It could be on the preparation material for the class or on previous class notes. Do you know the basic concepts that you need to know for moving ahead? And then you have them do the quiz, and then you do immediate feedback, like let's grade go over the answers. It can be done during class after a topic has been finished, and you just get the feedback. Do they know what's going on? Do they understand what was just covered? Because if not, then you as the instructor get the feedback to go back and say, okay, let's consider this again. People are not keeping up here. Or at the end of the class to say, okay, these are the most important concepts covered. Did you get this? This is a form of active learning. You're involving them in the process. You're asking them the questions. Do you understand this material? You're giving them a chance to test themselves. And then at the end, you're giving them the feedback. And any of this, if there's credit given for this, it's really low. Maybe it's extra credit. But there's very little or no credit involved in these sort of things because it's really meant for practice. To summarize, target the practice to an appropriate level of the challenge. Remember, push them a little bit, but not too hard. Timely feedback with the ability to redo. So homework once a week with problems given, with solutions given later, not timely, and no chance to redo. So think about ways with quizzes in class or working problems in class, having them work problems in class or worksheets where there's more chance to redo. All right, thank you.